Hey everybody, welcome back to Cinema Synopsis. Today, I'm going to explain a gripping, clever, comical science fiction action film from 2014 titled Edge of Tomorrow. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Let's dive in. A series of fragmented news broadcasts describes how an asteroid carrying an alien race called the Mimics has crashed in Europe and devastated the continent in a deadly war. Losing battle after battle over 5 years, the NATO-led United Defense Forces finally win a victory at Verdun, France, utilizing new mechanized combat suits. And a Special Forces soldier named Sergeant Rita Virataski is hailed as a hero after being credited with hundreds of Mimic kills. She becomes an instant icon and a recruiting boon for the human military as the United Human Armies try to use the momentum for Verdun to launch a multi-pronged final assault on Europe. One of the talking heads on the newsreels selling Virataski and the war effort is Major William Cage of the U.S. Army. Cage awakens from a doze on a helicopter trip to London in the UK the morning of the day before the operation to retake Europe. He meets with the commander of the Western Allies, General Brigham, assuming the general wants Cage to help him boost his public image or prepare for a post-war political career. Instead, the general orders Cage to accompany the first wave of Allied troops to land in France and provide ground coverage for the media. Cage, who was a ROTC cadet in college and has no experience in the field, tries various tactics to avoid the deployment, culminating with trying to blackmail the general via the media. At first, the general seems to relent, but has his guards taser Cage instead. Cage wakes up on a pile of duffel bags in the afternoon at Heathrow Airport, which has been turned into a military base. A sergeant shoves boots into his hands and calling him maggot before another sergeant named Farrell takes over. It turns out General Brigham sent orders to Farrell stating Cage had tried to desert and had now been demoted from an officer to private. Cage is assigned to a band of eccentric soldiers, J Squad, who are caught gambling by Farrell when Cage is introduced to them. Farrell forces J Squad to eat the cards they are gambling with and then instructs them to get Cage ready to deploy with them tomorrow. Cage is immediately taken by the squad for physical training. The next day is Invasion Day and Cage is a nervous wreck. He is fitted into a suit and the members of J Squad don't even bother teaching him how to take his weapon off safe mode as they believe he will die quickly. As soon as they are about to drop from aircraft onto the French coast, however, the back of their airship explodes and the squad drops down prematurely. Even though the operation to retake Europe was supposed to be a surprise attack, the Mimics are completely prepared and ambush and slaughter the humans. Sergeant Virataski also lands on the beach, but is killed within minutes. The surviving members of J Squad are all killed rapidly. Still shell-shocked and about to die, Cage grabs a claymore mine as a giant blue Mimic jumps on him. The ensuing blast kills the Mimic and Cage, but not before the blue Mimic's blood seeps onto Cage. Cage awakes in a panic on top of the duffel bags, with the same sergeant calling him maggot and Farrell again taking him to J Squad. As he further repeats the exact series of events of the prior day, to his bewilderment, Cage realizes that somehow he is reliving the day, despite his desperate attempt to explain what is happening, and that the Mimics will ambush the entire invasion. Nobody believes him. Stuck in a time loop, he is repeatedly deployed and dies in a variety of ways, only to wake up again and again on the duffel bags. Each time, he is deployed and dies, only to wake up again on the duffel bags. With each loop, he becomes slightly more adept at trying to save the members of J Squad and Virataski. But the Mimics are too numerous and always kill everyone. In one loop, he survives long enough to tell Virataski that he is stuck in a time loop. Recognizing his situation, Virataski tells Cage to find me when you wake up, before they are both killed again. Cage awakens on the duffel bags again, but cooperates with Sergeant Farrell and J Squad to buy himself time to find Virataski. After several fatal attempts in the base at slipping away, Cage finally manages to get away during PT and finds Virataski in a training base surrounded by training drones. The Special Forces soldiers are all hostile towards him and Virataski greets him rudely, but when he explains that Virataski asked for him, she whisks him away to a weapons building bay where her acquaintance, Dr. Carter, works. Once there, they go to a back room and Cage gets an explanation from Virataski and Carter. Virataski was also stuck in a time loop in Verdun, explaining how she came to be able to kill hundreds of Mimics single-handedly by the final loop. She obtained the ability to loop the day by the blood of the large blue alpha Mimic. Ordinary Mimics are human-sized and orange. But once the looper receives a human blood transfusion, the loop is broken and the person will die permanently. As such, Virataski instructs Cage to always make sure he dies fully instead of being accidentally resuscitated like she was after the Battle of Verdun, an act which broke her out of the loop cycle. Carter was formerly a researcher in General Brigham HQ, and he conceived a theory that all mimics are just neural manifestations of one mother, Omega alien creature. He tells Cage that the aliens possess the ability to turn time back, so each time an alpha mimic is killed, the Omega cycles time backwards, enabling them to precisely anticipate the invasion force's next actions, making it impossible to win. Dr. Carter's discovery led him to create a device that would allow them to locate the Omega if inserted into an alpha, but no one believed him, so he was fired and the device confiscated by General Brigham. Virataski explains how Cage effectively became an alpha and has entered the Omega's nervous system, and that he must repeat the loop until he sees visions of the Omega's locations so it can be found and killed. Cage tries to process all of this, but Virataski states that for them to find the Omega first, they must survive the invasion tomorrow. She then proceeds to train Cage, killing him a few times when he is injured so that he awakes on the duffels and starts over again. Cage and Virataski become much improved in combat on the beach, but despite everything, they both keep dying and Cage loops over and over. Cage grows attracted to Virataski, and watching her die over and over again starts to take an emotional toll on him. Cage receives a mental vision in one loop that the Omega is in a dam in Germany. As such, Cage and Virataski focus their efforts on surviving on the invasion beach and cutting inland to Germany. After multiple failures and deaths, Cage and Virataski finally make it inland. During the trips, they bond, with Cage noting down the details of the things Virataski says on each loop. In one loop, Virataski mentions having a significant other in Verdun, who she had to watch die hundreds of times until she was out of the loop, and he was dead for good. After they find a helicopter in a farmhouse, Virataski realizes Cage is trying to coax her to stay in the farmhouse while he goes alone, and confronts him about it. Cage admits they have looped to the farmhouse multiple times already, but every single time Virataski dies, so he is trying to spare her from dying again by going alone. Shocked, offended, and in disbelief, she intentionally gets them killed. In the following loop, Cage decides not to seek out Virataski and instead escapes the base. Cage eventually succeeds in making it to the German dam alone, but finds nothing and is almost imprisoned by the mimics before he manages to drown himself. In the next loop, Cage, Virataski, and Carter put the pieces together and figure out that Cage's visions and humans' victory in Verdun was all a ruse by the Omega Minute. The Omega had let the humans win at Verdun in order to lure the humans into invading Europe, where all the human armies would be ambushed and annihilated. With no other leads, the device Carter made which got him fired is their last shot. Virataski and Cage switch focus to getting the device, which is in the possession of General Brigham. After several fatal failures, they manage to get the device and stab it into Cage's leg. Cage then sees the true location of the Omega in the Louvre Museum in Paris. After seeing this, their getaway car crashes, and the airbag knocks out Virataski before she can kill Cage. Cage awakens strapped to a hospital gurney under arrest. He realizes he is out of the loop now as he was given a blood transfusion following the car crash. Virataski breaks the two of them out, but with no more loops left and only several hours before the doomed invasion, Cage decides to go back to the base and find the Misfit J Squad to take them to Paris. Cage's now intimate knowledge of J Squad and Virataski's credibility convinces J Squad, and they all take an aircraft and fly to Paris. Once at the Louvre, the mimics crash their airship, and in the ensuing firefight half of J Squad are killed. Cage, Virataski, and the three remaining J Squad members decide to use the remaining engine power to slide the airship into the Louvre and detonate grenades to kill the Omega. The rest of J Squad sacrifice themselves in the slide, and Cage and Virataski make it into the museum. Once there, Virataski tells Cage she will distract a patrolling alpha mimic while he will go and detonate a grenade belt on the Omega, which is submerged underwater at the bottom of the Louvre. As Virataski says neither one of them will survive the ordeal, they share a kiss. Virataski laments that she wishes she had more time to get to know Cage better and takes off. Cage dives underwater to get to the Omega. After a brief chase, the Alpha catches and kills Virataski. The Omega senses Cage and sends the Alpha back to catch Cage. The Alpha dives after Cage and stabs him, but Cage pulls all the grenade pins and drops the belt into the Omega. The Omega explodes and dies, and all the mimics die with it. As Cage dies, the Omega's blood seeps into him, much like the Alpha's blood did at the start. Because of this, Cage re-entered the loop, so instead of dying permanently, he wakes up in shock and finds himself on the helicopter trip to London from the morning before the invasion. He lands and sees on the news that after mysterious explosions in Paris, the mimics have all died off and the human forces will commence sweeping through Europe the next day. All the members of J's squad are seen alive and well as Cage arrives in the base. Cage goes to find Virataski, but whereas now everyone treats him with respect as he is a major once more, when he finds Virataski, she greets him with the same rudeness as she did each time they first met in every loop. Seeing this, Cage breaks out into a big grin. The end. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe as it will help my new channel grow a lot. Have a nice day and take care. See you soon.